So here is another interview question. How would you evaluate whether your AI system is actually good or not? Okay, so see, traditionally, right, in traditional software, what we do is we develop the code and everything, we deploy it, then we'll do the testing, right? So basically, a simple ETL testing is like, okay, for this source and if for this source data, I'm expecting this kind of answer. Okay, so am I getting the answer or not? Based on it, I will say pass or fail. Okay, so if I'm getting the expected answer, I will say pass. If I do not get the expected answer, I'll fail the test case. Okay, so now no matter the data source data changes, the code does not change, and you are expected to retrieve, you can run the same code 100 times, you are expected to get the similar result. Like if the data does not, if your source data does not change, then your target data will also not change if the code does not change, correct? So this is how we will be testing it. But now with AI, right, so things we cannot do that just traditionally. Okay, so why? Because you can do a simple experiment. So you can basically ask any question in AI. So probably ask it to explain about what AI is about in like 2 or 3 sentences. You ask it like 100 times, right? So and you compare the answer, right? So you would basically see there is small difference in the answer. I'm not saying fundamentally it will be very different. I'm just saying that maybe, first answer might have like 2 lines, second answer might have 3 lines, third answer might have like comma. So it is not exactly the same. I'm talking in sense of sentences, right? Because it is predicting, right? Every time it is basically predicting the next word, okay, next token. So you will not get this. So you cannot actually test it the same way as you test, because my question is the same, right? The same question I'm typing, but my answer is completely different. Not completely different, the answer is a little bit different. So I cannot say like for this question, this is the answer, so I should always get the same exact sentence, right? Because that does not work in the AI world. So then how would you evaluate? So that is a very interesting question, right? So if you cannot evaluate like your traditional ways, like how would you evaluate? Okay, so we'll go through a simple demo here, trying to understand. So here I have this. So what I'm going to do here is like, see, I have a set of questions. How would I reset my password if I no longer have an old email? And these are basically ideal answers. So what we are basically saying, like, hey, for this question, this is the ideal answer, because we want to evaluate our AI model, right? So we want to evaluate against a predefined answer set. Okay. Now I have a bunch of questions. Now there are two ways of doing it, right? One is basically I'm going to do a naive evaluation. So what this basically does is, so here you can, I'll show you this. Okay, so what it does is it will take those questions, right, and it will basically call the AI model and say like, hey, get me the answer for that. Okay, so the problem with this is like, so AI may not have the context and everything, right? So it will basically hit the AI model, it will give the answer. Okay, so if you look at this, how do I reset the password? To reset a password with access to old email, you can typically use an alternate verification method such as answering security questions and all those things. So this is very common answer for like if you lose a Gmail password or if you lose your company password, most of it follow the same thing, right? But if I basically in private companies, right, or let's say you own a company, so you might have a different ways. So if I do this one, now what it does is basically it will run this one. So it is a little different. So it generates the answer, and then what it does is it actually see the answer, it goes through the model, it generates the answer, but it then has to be evaluated, right? So it has to be evaluated across like, did the answer actually meet the right one or not? So here if you have observed, initially I showed you, right, for this question this is the ideal answer. What it does is like we have a judge LLM. Now the model is providing the answer. Now that answer has to be evaluated by another LLM. So this LLM basically say, okay, for this question the LLM has provided an answer, so this answer that the LLM provided, that will be compared to this answer. So the LLM another AI model will basically compare the answer provided by previous LLM model to this answer and see like if these are matching. If these are matching, then it will say, okay, the answer that the previous AI model has given me is very similar to the ideal answer, so I'm going to pass it. So this is one way of evaluating. So you take the answer and you will basically evaluate with another LLM. So this is something what we call as a LLM as a judge. Okay, so if you look at this, you can see here, right, how do I reset the password, you get the answers and this. So this is the model answer that you got from one LLM, and the judge is basically another answer. So another AI model which is actually judging whether the answer provided is correct or not. So let's look at two examples. Okay, how do I reset the password if I no longer have the access to my email? If you no longer have access to your old email, you can usually reset your password by verifying your identity through other means such as answering security questions, personal information, contact support team, all this, right? So this is how this particular company wants, right? So here it is very difficult, right? Okay, so this is also same thing, phone number for verification, I think here personal information. Okay, now the judge is another LLM. So what it does is they generate answer conveys same exact first correct as the ideal answer. So if I go back to the ideal answer, right, so ideal answer, contact support with proof for account ownership so that they can manually reset the passwords, those things. Okay, so it has checked and it says like, okay, it is matching with the ideal answer, so I'm going to pass it. Now let's look at the second question. Why does my CSV export keep failing? The CSV export may be failing large data due to memory or processing limitation. Try exporting the data smaller batches, optimizing the export process to handle large data set. Okay, so now additional check if there are any restriction of file size. Now here the judge says does not mention request timeout or async export. So the judge saying like it does not mention about request timeout or async export options. So this is fail. Why? How does this judge saying that this is a fail? Because what judge will do is judge will look at this answer. Okay, okay, it mentions about request timeout and all those things. So the answer provided by the previous LLM or AI model does not mention that, so it fails. So that is how you can evaluate. See, you are evaluating saying that okay, this is pass, this is fail, pass, pass, fail, fail, right? So these are the testings that you can do. Now if I do a projection comparison, so you will see like, you know, how much accuracy or all those things you will see. See, here you are saying that 100% accuracy because we are not basically evaluating it. But when you evaluate it, you are finding like only 62% is actually matching, right? So that's how you basically evaluate your AMR. This is one way of evaluation, right? So you have predefined answer and then you will basically evaluate it. Okay. Now, there are other things, other techniques that you can actually do it, which we did not write it in the code because we wanted to keep the demo simple. See, we have an LLM as a judge here, right? So basically, you have an answer and another LL model will basically evaluate it. This is called as LLM as a judge. Okay. Now, similarly, you can basically have a human in the loop or human evaluation. So what human evaluation basically means is that whatever the answers the LLM has provided, human will basically evaluate this answer and see like, oh, okay, this answer is correct or not, and it will, and he or she will basically mark it pass or fail, right? So that is one way of evaluation. That is also very good. It's a time consuming, that is, but it is a more trustworthy, as I would say. Okay. If you want to do it faster, you can replace the human with an LLM. Okay. And then we need to do regression testing. So basically what do you do is you keep a fixed set of tricky questions and basically you rerun them every time, and then you change the model. So you change the same question, tricky questions, and you change the model or you change the prompt. So what happens is if you change the model, you get the answers. Are you getting the different answers? If you change the prompt, are you getting the different answers? So accordingly, based on the outcome, you can go back and fix it, whether you want to fix it the model level or whether you want to fix it at the prompt level. So these are the two things that you can also do, right? uh, then another thing that you can do is like what we call as A/B testing. So See, what you do is you roll out a new version to a very small real traffic, and then basically you compare this real outcomes. So you basically compare, did they need to, did they, let's say, if they were supposed, if they had to escalate to a human, right? So did the AI model actually escalate, right? Or they really, or they basically relying on the offline, whatever scoring that he have, right? So those are different metrics that you can actually track. You can track like, okay, did the AI model provide factual answers, or did the AI model actually provide something which is very helpful? What is the tone of the AI model like? Because these are charts, right? So you don't want the customer to feel disrespected, right? So you need to ensure that, the response that is getting is it is correct, it is helpful, it has a good tone, and safety as well, like it should not expose any of the PI data and all these things. So you can basically do this testings here and basically say like, okay, look at the response and see like for these questions, like are we getting the factual answers, like are we getting the helpful. So you can do it manually, or you can basically give it to another LLM to say that, check all those things. And again, you need to basically provide the context and all. So these are some of the ways that you can do to kind of evaluate whether your AI is doing correctly. You can take the confidence score as well to see like, how confident the AI model is. Bring in another. So there are a lot of ways you can actually evaluate. Human in the loop is something that I prefer, at least for something like a healthcare where, or banking, where it is very very necessary to ensure that you do not have a wrong, you do not have a wrong answer, you have an accurate answer, and also ensure that your PI data is not going out. So you would definitely need to do it. Again, these are different ways how you can evaluate. All right. Okay. So yeah, that's all I have today, and I'll see you guys again